This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. For the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. The X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. Then the show is repeated in its entirety from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. on the all-new X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio Network. If you'd like to give us a call worldwide, toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. That's worldwide, toll-free at 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. You can always chat with us here at our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, by using the MSN address of xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com. That's xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com. And our websites, www.xzoneradiotv.com and www.xzonetv.com. My first guest tonight is Michael Cohen, and he is one of Australia's leading paranormal media figures, as well as a writer and public speaker. He began his career as a radio psychic and paranormal presenter before taking an interest in the ET UFO question. He has worked as an advisor for a number of Australian paranormal-themed movie productions, including Greenkeeping and The Crossing. He also edits the well-known UFO news service, All News Web, and in this capacity has managed to penetrate some of the highly credible inside sources as to what the government really knows on the ET topic. Joining us all the way tonight from Australia, X-Zone Nation, is Michael Cohen. Michael, welcome to the X-Zone.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's great having you, Michael. Tell me, are UFO sightings very frequent in Australia?
Not nearly as frequent as they are in North America. I mean, you'll get different opinions on that, and you'll have people that claim they are quite frequent, but in my experience, they're not even near, wouldn't be a tenth less, even less than that. No, they're pretty uncommon, actually.
Have you yourself ever had a UFO sighting?
Yeah, well, I've actually had a sighting once in the city of Sydney about 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty good sighting, actually. Basically, it was 1990. I mean, it was a pretty odd sighting. It was 1996, and I was walking home one night, and I passed a park, a small park near my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned around and looked in the sky, and I saw two discs madly crisscrossing each other. Two glowing discs at night, madly crisscrossing each other. And at the time I was actually flying. I used to fly planes. So, I had some idea of the sort of things you see in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching these two discs, and I'm sort of going through the various things they could be. Bats was one of the things that's quite likely down here. Obviously birds, some sort of aircraft, and I just couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what they were, other than basically UFOs. And as I'm looking at them, I hear a helicopter, and it's the helicopter shines a spotlight on these two UFOs, and then I notice another spotlight being shone from a nearby office building where I would have never guessed there was a spotlight. Then, as well as that, there were dogs barking, so I actually do think it was a fairly good sighting. And I think I reported it to MUFON. Well, it was just when the internet was sort of coming to Australia, and it was, and I think it was probably the first MUFON website. I was the only person that ever reported that sighting. I'm sure there were other people that saw it. But at the time, not many Australians would have actually had a clue where they could have possibly reported a UFO sighting into. And it's possible that people called the police, and but the police would have just said, "Well, what do you want us to do about it?"
Sure.
And I've looked for other people that might have seen those two UFOs that night, and I've actually never found anyone. And it taught me a lot about the whole phenomenon.
All right, Michael, let's talk more about your sighting on the other side of this 2-minute break. Michael Cohen is our very special guest all the way from Australia, and his website is www.allnewsweb.com. Michael Cohen and I return in 2 minutes as we continue right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Welcome back, everyone. We're very happy to have Michael Cohen with us from Australia this hour of the X-Zone. His website is www.allnewsweb.com. That's www.allnewsweb.com. Michael, we were talking about your sighting of 2 discs in Australia, and what did you learn about the UFO community, sighting UFOs, reporting UFOs from your own experience?
Well, basically what it taught me is only a fraction of UFOs that are ever reported. Mm-hmm. And most people don't really they don't really care about what they see in the skies. So, for instance, I've worked out that for every couple of thousand times that a UFO might be seen, it's possibly only seen once, and for every hundred of times that it's actually seen, it's probably only reported once. For every hundred times that it's reported, you might get some footage. So I mean, what it teaches you is that actually, UFOs are probably frequently visiting Earth, but every time you get a piece of footage on the internet, that represents 1 in thousands actual UFOs that actually do come down to Earth. And I can just imagine, to give you an idea, the area that I saw the UFO in, it's the sort of crowd that lives there is probably similar to the sort of people that live in Miami Beach or something like that.
Right.
Elderly retirees, and I can just imagine that I was the only person that took an interest in that sighting. There might have been some other elderly people that sort of looked out their unit windows and saw something strange in the sky. Didn't realize they didn't have a clue what it was, and that was it. Certainly, I'm the only person that reported it. Spent quite a bit of time looking for people that ever, saw that particular event, but I'm pretty sure that what I saw were craft of an extraterrestrial origin. Other than that, there might have been some sort of secret military project, but that's the only other possibility. The whole event lasted quite some time, and I got to look at them quite carefully, and they definitely were doing stuff that no terrestrial type craft could ever do. So it sort of taught me that you've got to keep your eye on the skies, keep looking for things, but obviously the government's aware of what's going on up there because a helicopter, and that's one thing about Australian sightings that even though, like I say, they're not nearly as common as sightings in, say, Canada, often with Australian reports, you'll hear about helicopters shortly coming onto the scene. So someone even here knows, something's going on in the sky. I must say that knowing a little bit about flight, I don't think that what I saw was a government, a military project. I don't think any human technology is capable of doing what these two discs were doing. But it was as if they were sort of playing with each other and sort of, playing a game with each other. But the sort of manoeuvres they were doing were quite impossible. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was an interesting sighting. And when I said they're not common here, I should sort of qualify that. They do, much like that sighting, they do occur, but just not with the same frequency. And in the last year or so, there've been virtually no sightings in the city of Sydney. So obviously, like anywhere else, you get times when there are more and times when there are less.
Tell me, who do you think is visiting this planet, and what is their purpose?
Well, what you've got, you've got a number of races that are visiting Earth. One that I've been told about by certain government sources is a race. There are differences as to what their specific name is, or at least what the name that scientists and the military are referring to them as. But there's a group apparently from Andromeda that's coming here, and the purpose is basically, obviously alien extraterrestrials or civilizations out there taking interest in groups that are sort of acquiring technology, and their purpose is purely scientific or touristic, just looking at different groups that are. It's like it's exploration. That's all it is. If we were able to sort of get out there, we might take an interest in other civilizations. It's purely scientific. From what I understand, the aliens that are coming here are completely peaceful, and the governments that are aware of them coming have designated their intentions as peaceful. So we have nothing really to worry about from any of the aliens that are coming. If they wanted to destroy us or harm us in any way, they would have already.
Yeah, I believe that as well, Michael. Tell me, in Australia, are there reports of alien abductions or cattle mutilation that is reported here in the United States?
Cattle, as far as I know, there are no reports of cattle mutilations, but there certainly are reports of abductions. Actually, abduction reports here are actually quite common. While actual UFO sightings aren't as common as in other places, abduction reports are pretty common. And I myself have done a bit of research into abductions in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that I don't believe in everything that people put forward in relation to, the alien ET question. Like, I'm not a massive believer, for instance, in crop circles.
Right.
There are websites on the internet that, how to make a crop circle, and people boasting about crop circles they've made, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest that they might not be anything alien. But my own research has actually led me to believe that alien abductions are real. And one of the things that sort of interested me about that is hearing different people's accounts of being abducted by alien, and listening to what they have to say, and seeing how people from completely different backgrounds and people that had no interest in the UFO issue whatsoever say almost the same thing about their abductions. And what I've been doing with my research into abductions is I've sort of put people that get abducted or claim they get abducted into two groups. And a lot of, there are people that might object to what I'm about to say. I've had some criticism of this, but I put them in two groups. One of the groups are people that have claimed that have been abducted many, many times, and have been abducted since they were children and all that sort of thing. And I must say I'm a bit cynical about that. And the other are people that are perfectly normal people you'd never expect to claim to be interfered in any way with aliens, but yet swear blind that at least once they got abducted. And for instance, here in Australia, I actually know someone fairly prominent. Obviously, he doesn't want his identity revealed, but he's a politician who swears he's been abducted. And I know other people of various people that are in every way, totally normal. They're not sort of alternative type people that swear they've been abducted. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to their descriptions, and there are massive similarities. All of them, obviously recall being at some point waking up at night, feeling paralyzed, and being floated out a nearby window. They all describe entering a craft and either pyramidic or cylindrical furniture in a room, and aliens wearing sort of what they describe as ancient Roman robes. And funnily enough, laugh as you may, a lot of them do describe being anally probed.
Yes.
Now, I don't think there's anything in the human psyche that leads people who've never heard of the whole phenomena to all imagine being anally probed by an alien, unless there's actually some truth to it. So I've sort of dug a bit deeper into this topic, the topic of alien abductions, and I've looked at other similarities with the people that have been abducted. And a few things that I've picked up are this. Many of the people that are abducted, a high percentage, tended to be in a house by themselves. They were alone that night. I've noticed also abductions tend to occur in the early hours in the morning, around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. Many of the abductees are single men. So they're alone in their house. No one's going to see them go. So, and that tells me that the aliens that are actually doing the abductions are actually looking for people that they can abduct, without basically getting caught. Another thing that I've sort of discovered that I find quite fascinating is that a lot of the people that are abducted did indeed have an open window in their bedroom. So once again, the aliens were kind of making things easier for themselves. They were looking for people who did have an open window. And another thing that I also discovered was that in virtually all the cases I looked at, that open window faced a street, faced a sort of wide boulevard-type street. So again, you've got a situation, and so it tells you a lot. It tells you the aliens that are doing the abducting are, like I say, making things fairly easy for themselves, looking for people who won't be missed, looking for windows that are sort of inconvenient positions to allow someone to be floated out the house. Now, I've done a lot of study in this, and I've gone through like dozens and dozens of cases, and I don't believe it's a coincidence that something like 80% of the abductions that I think are genuine, involve an open window facing a fairly well-lit street. I'm not saying that aliens don't have the technology to see in the dark. They probably do. But at any rate, they sort of obviously come down, they look at people to abduct for whatever reason, although in this case I'm pretty certain it is some kind of sort of genetic or medical experiments. and basically then abduct them through an open window. So it teaches me that people say things like that we were floated through a wall. I'm not sure that the aliens are doing the abductions have the technology to float people through walls. I mean, the technology in floating someone through a wall is massive.
Very interesting.
It involves basically breaking down atomic composition and sort of rebuilding it at the other end of the wall, and I just don't think they've got that.
Michael, you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. It's great having you with us. Michael Cohen is my special guest. He is one of Australia's leading paranormal media figures, as well as a writer and public speaker. And he's also the gentleman behind www.allnewsweb.com. That's www.allnewsweb.com. Michael and I will be back on the other side of this news break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and the Talkstar Radio.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Michael Cohen is my special guest, and as I was saying before we went to the break, X Zone Nation, Michael is one of Australia's leading paranormal media figures, as well as a writer and public speaker. He began his career as a radio psychic and paranormal presenter before taking an interest in the ET UFO question. He has worked as an advisor for a number of Australian paranormal-themed movie productions, including Greenkeeping and The Crossing. He also edits the well-known UFO news service, All News Web, and in his capacity has managed to penetrate some highly credible inside sources as to what the government really knows on the ET topic. His website is www.allnewsweb.com. Michael, I have to agree with you when it comes to the alien abduction phenomenon, that there are many questions that have yet to be answered. But I'd like to ask you a question, Michael. What is your opinion of people who are brought into a regressive hypnosis situation and then asked about an alleged alien abduction?
I mean, yeah. Well, I've got a pretty strong opinion on a firm opinion. Basically, it's nonsense. You either what I've actually found is people that are abducted by aliens vividly remember the event and require no hypnosis whatsoever to recall it. I mean, that's obviously just a recipe for people basically conjuring up things that might never have happened. I mean, it is obviously anything's possible. I'm open to being proved wrong, but my experience is people actually do remember being abducted. What I've actually found in cases that I feel are genuine is that people strongly remember the event the next morning, and as sort of time goes by, months and years, it becomes, well, I suppose, like anything else, really. The memories start fading, but in the morning, I mean, the morning after, they strongly remember it. And one of the things I always hear people say, and I mean, the reality is, if you look at human beings, I mean, it's well known that when you're dreaming something, you believe it's real. one of the signs of a dream is that the minute you wake up, you realise it wasn't. Now, occasionally get the odd sort of dream where you sort of wake up, you still think it was real for a little while, and occasionally get the odd dream where you sort of think it's real even the next morning. But one of the things I've found with abductions is people swear this was not a dream.
Mm-hmm.
I was lying in my bed and I started sort of feeling myself. I started feeling unusual usually, and at some point I started levitating out the window. This wasn't a dream. This really happened. And when I found sort of physical evidence like open windows, and another one is that abductions in Australia tend to take place in summer,
mm-hmm.
right? Because people do have the window open, basically. And, I suppose for aliens, it's just like human beings putting a sedative in a lion or something like that. They go out, they want to capture a lion and so they can track it or something, and they just go, oh, there's one in a convenient position, he's not near the herd, whatever. Right? It's probably the same thing. They're just looking for, anyone, really. They don't care. I don't think people that are abducted are special or the aliens are entrusting them with any kind of mission. They just want to get samples of our DNA or whatever it is. Could be for their own medicine, right? And they're going to find anyone that they can get quite easily. And the other thing that I've noticed with aliens in general is that they tend to be more they tend to avoid highly developed Western sort of areas to really sort of show themselves, and sort of concentrate on areas like the backwaters in the Amazon, where they realise that if people see them, they're not as likely to sort of make anything of it. They can sort of do what they like back in places like that, and it won't sort of really get out into the media. So, and much like abductions. And what I've also noticed is that aliens that do abducting are fastidious about no one else in the area seeing what's going on. So one can assume they do use some kind of cloaking device, should I say, as they float an abductee out their bedroom window. So yeah.
Now tell me, what about the Australian Aborigines in the outback? Do they talk about aliens, UFOs in their myths and their legends?
They do. They both. I mean, I must say I'm not an expert on that topic. I've actually generally sort of centered my my research on non-Australian events, but yes, they do. Aborigines do two things. They certainly talk about alien, and it's well known here. They talk about events that might well be of alien origin, people coming from the sky and all that sort of thing. There are obviously it's well known that there are rock paintings of beings that look like they might be space creatures, although in saying that, some of those rock paintings might be recent and might actually be pictures of astronauts. But the other thing about Aborigines is they have a much higher incidence of alien encounters and UFO sightings than any other group in Australia, and the reason is quite simple. They're basically in outback areas. The sky's a lot clearer. By all accounts, UFO encounters in Australia tend to centre on the outback. I live in a suburb called Coogee in Sydney, which is a sort of beach resort. It's quite nice. And there aren't a lot of sightings here, but there was one recently where a gentleman swore that actually on the street I live on, the very street I live on, and there's a UFO researcher by the name of Bill Chalker. He knows a bit more about this, but basically a UFO, he was walking one night drunk, which doesn't obviously give the story a great deal of credibility, drunk from the pub, which is the bar, and he was walking along the street that I live on, and a UFO landed in front of him. A saucer basically descended, and then after a minute just disappeared, shot off into the sky. And one of the things Bill said was, even though obviously the guy was apparently completely drunk when he had the sighting, apart from swearing that it happened, Bill did say it had the typical sort of signs of a sort of good UFO sighting, and not well known, much like Canada, where obviously as the government released their files, not with much fanfare, did it sort of quietly, but they're there. Much the same happened here, Australia, years back. basically declassified its UFO files. And there was, in fact, I was reading through those files, and there was a similar sighting that was seriously investigated by the government. It was on a beach not far from here, at Harbour Beach, where also a man was just sort of sitting there in a saucer, basically descended to Earth and then shot off. But yeah, I mean, the thing about UFOs, I think the point I want to make is the one thing that's seriously lacking with UFOs is any publicly released, really convincing footage, and that's obviously a something that concerns anyone that's into this topic. Why is there no, at least publicly released? I mean, there's all these stories. Mm-hmm. There's thousands and thousands of people that swear they, saw something that couldn't be an earthly craft. And yet there really isn't. Like, the amount of time I've spent looking for good footage is incredible. And I mean, obviously on the website All Newsweb, I often get, I put something up and it gets criticised by people, and often they make the point, there's plenty of good footage around, but this isn't an example of it. And I'm thinking to myself, and I always say, please show me your good footage. Where is this plenty? Because there actually isn't plenty of good footage. I think I'm familiar with every well-known piece of footage that's out there. Mm-hmm. Right, and then I'm obviously familiar with stuff that's not well known, but and there actually isn't a lot of good UFO footage, and the question needs to be asked: why is that the case? And I'm certain that I'm pretty certain we are being visited by aliens, but I don't think they want good footage. I think that the whole thing is done in a way that they themselves control. The aliens that are coming here, they control their interaction with us, and they're not prepared at this point for us to get really good footage of them coming here. It's that simple, and they have the technology and the ability to make sure that when they want to see someone, they do so, at night when the person probably doesn't have anything. And even if the truth is, people go, well, did you have a mobile? Did you have your camera on your mobile phone when you saw a UFO? But if something happens in seconds, realistically, scrambling for a mobile phone late at night to take a picture, I mean, any alien any UFO worth its salt can sort of get out of the way before that happens. I mean, and I think that is what's happening. I mean, from what I understand, there's definite idea out there in the universe that, you don't interfere with civilizations that are sort of going from non-technological to technological. You allow them to sort of develop at their own pace.
Tell me, do you think that the aliens actually have a message for humanity? And if so, Michael, what do you believe that message to be?
I don't think they have a specific message per se for humanity, although they are concerned with I've no doubt that they look at us as a fairly barbaric group of people. Mm-hmm. A barbaric civilization or race. But what I'll say is this: I think one of the things about UFOs that I want to sort of make clear is people squabble over the details. And there's did this event happen? Did Roswell really occur? But I think it needs to be said to people that obviously listen to the show that one thing that is certain is we are being visited by aliens, and at the very least, the major governments of the world are aware of this. To what extent they're actually interacting with the aliens is up to debate, and to how much they know about the aliens, how much they actually know, that's a matter of debate. But I have no doubt, and I've personally, obviously with the website and that, it gets a lot of readers. It gets some months you get 500,000 readers. So obviously I'm putting feelers out there, and if there are people that want to sort of send me stuff, people that work within government departments, I'm going to get a little bit of that from time to time, and I do get a bit of that, and I have some really, really good sources. And obviously, the good sources want to be confidential, but there's no doubt about the fact that the major governments are aware of aliens visiting Earth. Now, in terms of a message, there's no real message per se, but one thing various governments are studying this phenomenon have realised is there are certain ethics that it seems that alien civilizations that are visiting us have. And one of the things that I talk about is this idea of the biocosmic equation.
And what is
and
that?
Basically, what that's all about is that for every it's an equation that says for every planet, for every X number of planets, there's one bears some form of biological life. For every planet that bears some form of biological life, one brings forth animals, and so forth. For every X number of planets that bring forth animals, one yields a civilization. And for every X that yields a civilization, say for every 300 or 400, one of those civilizations makes it to the next level with actually, a part of a galactic group of civilizations. And the idea is that you're not allowed to actually interfere with civilization's development in reaching that stage. And for every one civilization that actually makes it to a sort of galactic existence, hundreds just disappear, and they disappear because the actual group, the breeding or the evolution of the group is actually flawed, and in the end, basically the group destroys themselves. And I don't know this. This is now my own sort of
theory,
my own ideas. But basically, from what I understand, human beings would be seen as pretty flawed, and not candidates for a galactic existence, but rather candidates for self-destruction. So obviously, the message is that evolution. This is something that's coming from NASA. And their studies on extraterrestrial issues. Evolution is something that occurs throughout the universe. It's basically the name of the game everywhere. And when you think, because the universe, is a set paradigm with certain principles in play, and evolution is one of them. And sort of hardwired into the idea of evolution is the idea of self-interest. Obviously, as things evolve, in order to evolve, you need to sort of be concerned with your own survival. And that brings in the idea, in the idea of self-interest and selfishness, and materialism and things like that. And at a certain point, for a species to sort of move on to the next level, they've got to move from self-interest to, at the very least, what I would refer to as enlightened self-interest, where they can actually exist without, exploiting and destroying things around them.
Michael, stand by. You and I have to take our final break. What an interesting gentleman. We'll have to have Michael back on in the future. He is one of Australia's leading paranormal media figures, as well as a writer and public speaker. His website is www.allnewsweb.com, www.allnewsweb.com. Michael Cohen and I return on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, where it's -9 degrees and snowing, and Michael's on the beach where it's 40 above, which is about 86 degrees in U.S. terms. I'm going to get a warm coffee. I'll be back on the other side. Don't go away.
In over 36 years in law enforcement, I've learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, extraterrestrials, and UFOs, how we gather that evidence of their existence, preserve that same evidence, and present it to a court of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Come with me on a journey that seeks to prove with undisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Join me, Larry Lawson, host of the Paranormal Stakeout, coming to the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Check out the broadcast schedule for Paranormal Stakeout with yours truly, Larry Lawson, at www.xzbn.net. For more information about me, my travels, and my team, check out our website at www.paranormalfbi.com or join us on Facebook at Florida Bureau of Paranormal.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
And welcome back, everyone. Michael Cohen is our very special guest this hour. His website is www.allnewsweb.com. That's www.allnewsweb.com. Michael, what is the official position of the Australian government when it comes to UFOs and ETs visiting Australia?
Well, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, there were files that were kept by the Defence Department, and they were declassified. But the official opinion here is complete denial. And I've actually myself approached a couple of politicians on the matter here, and Australia makes no concession. But what I have actually noticed is a lot of people. Obviously with the news website, I have a lot of people that I'm in email contact with that work for various sort of aviation, government aviation departments and science departments. And there's a lot of belief amongst those people in UFOs, sort of people that work for those departments, but the government itself, it's actually the last government on the planet Australia's a very conservative country, actually. It's a very, it's not the sort of country that goes out on a limb and does something radical. And it's complete denial on the issue. You won't hear anything about it, and possibly even not a great deal of interaction with the issue. They'll just defer that sort of thing to the United States. They would have realised a while back that if there are aliens visiting Australian airspace, they're not really doing any harm anyway, and
that's right.
I don't think they'd really even bother with any resources. I'm not sure there's all that much UFO-wise happening in Australia.
Michael, as I said to you on the break, it's been great having you with us for this past hour, and we're going to be making arrangements to have you on and in the near future, and maybe we can do a regular UFO feature because you are a source of international reports, and we are a source of getting the international media out there and talking about this every night here on the X-Zone. Let our listeners know more about you and where they can find out where they can reach you on the web, and what are the kind of stories you carry at All News Web?
Yeah, the place that I sort of do most of my reporting is allnewsweb.com. And, what we do is we look for credible sightings around the world, and we put them up. And, I mean, that's part of the proof of, the fact that there is something of a cover-up on this issue, is that prior to All News Web sort of opening its doors, so to speak, you used to have this comment commonly made, and I sort of laugh at it. Comedians would say it, and people that want to sort of have a laugh at the whole UFO issue would always say, what is it about, UFOs that the only people that see them are kind of rural folk in Kentucky or wherever? Well, that's just plain not true. And, in the past, without the internet and things like that, you could have 50 sightings a day in, say, China. China's got an incredible number of sightings on a daily basis, right? And no one in America would know it. And in fact, until All News Web opened its doors, the vast majority, if not pretty much all the sightings that occurred in places like China just went unnoticed to English speakers. And we try to sort of get sightings up there and make people aware of them. And actually, interestingly enough, one of the things I found funny today is there's a sighting that's getting a bit of publicity in Canada. It's the one, that sort of streak through the sky. Now, I don't think that's an alien craft. I mean,
Michael, we have to say so long for tonight, but we will have you back on in the very near future because I'd like to talk to you more about UFOs in China as well as the other stories that you cover in allnewsweb.com. Michael Cohen has been my special guest this hour. I'll be back on the other side of this break talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Don't go away.